Hello and welcome to Floyd Models Kit Review Time. Today we've got Takom's latest release. This is the Jeep. No, we can't call it a Jeep. It's not a Jeep. This is the 1/16 scale quarter-ton truck 4x4 G503 utility truck. It's a Jeep, but obviously Takom haven't paid the licensing and probably under the threat of being sued, so they decided just not to call it and not to have any Jeep references at all with it. But it is technically the legendary Jeep in 1/16 scale, so something very, very nice indeed. So, as you can see, nice little bit of box art, obviously with the drawing of it down in there. Looks like you get the full engine detail down in there as well. So if we have a quick run round on the old box, we've got a couple of options. Just down in here, we can see Germany 1945 and Korea 1950. So you have got nice differences between the two. Both got the 50 on the roof. As you can see down in here, you've got your kit number for this one is 1016. And obviously, we usual with Takom, we've got the actual sprues and a little bit of photo etch down in there and some of the decals down below. So in the box, we are greeted by, you can see, big old kit. You know, this is the good old scale for 16. So you see, we've got some nice bits and pieces down in there. So we've got some of the chassis and the various things. We do get a driver, which is quite nice. That's him just down in there. So various sprues, all individually bagged. We've got the clear parts just down in there, which looks good. We'll have a close look at those in a minute. We've got some jerry cans and the 50. And we've got some more stowage equipment and some various parts for the vehicle itself. And again, looks like we've got the fuel tank down in there, various other items, a spare wheel. And we've got the actual tyres and wheels and hubs themselves. That's looking very nice indeed. And then, as you might imagine, we've got all the running gear down in here. So we've got all the axles and the various bits and pieces. And the drive shafts, we've got the engine, looking very nice indeed. So we've got a nice engine detail down in there. And then last up, we've got some of the smaller parts. So we've got fire extinguishers and things like that. As always, we'll start in the bag with the instructions. So down in here, we can see the photo etch running around in there. And we've also got the decals. So we'll carefully see if we can get those out, which we can, which is quite nice. So we'll look at those in a minute. And we'll start just down in here. So, quarter-ton utility truck, as you can see. So, usual bits and pieces. So we've got all your sprue guides just down in here. And then running off. So, as always, pretty straightforward. We're into the actual chassis, working all of that in there. And we've got, obviously, the springs. And then down in here, we've got the drive shaft. And the various areas being fitted down in here. So we've actually got all the various bits, got the bumpers being on the back. And again, got the crossbars, cross members in there like that. And then down in here for the other side, running down. So we've got some of the suspension area. We've got the actual steering coming down and in. So really, we've got a fully detailed make-up of the sort of chassis area coming up from the ground. Then we're going over to the engine, so obviously making up the actual engine block itself. All the details going down in there. Looks pretty darn good all the way through. Probably could do with a little bit of wiring at this scale, just for things like the plugs, you know, HT leads, things like that down in there. But generally, everything is right down in there. We've got the battery being installed. We've got the wings going on there, things like that being fitted on there, radiator, hubs, and the actual tyres being fitted onto this one. And then working our way around, we've got the exhaust, got a little bit of a plate underneath as well, protecting that. And then we've actually got the floor being fitted down as this one. Obviously, all the driving gear, the various things. So we've got the dashboard, front grille going on there, all the very items, as you might imagine. Got the sides going on, some of the stowage items being added, seats, things like that being fitted, headlights right the way through. That instrument panel, top of the dash being fitted down in there. So again, we've got some nice touches down in here with the actual bonnet as well. So it'd be really nice to have it opened up on this particular one. Then we've got the windscreen being fitted in, tailgate, things like that onto there. And then obviously got some of the actual stowage equipment. We've got the little wire cutter being fitted at the front, spare wheel being fitted on, jerry cans, usual things like that. Then we're making up in 21 all for the gun. So we've got the 50 being mounted and then obviously put onto the actual back of it. And then we've got the framework as well for the actual rag top, which it doesn't come with, I don't think, on this particular one. Then we've got the jerry can, all the various bits and pieces being fitted down into there. And then we've got the actual driver figure himself being fitted into this one. So again, it's something very nice down in there. Then we've got your colour callouts and your markings, pretty much olive drab right the way over, as you might imagine. And then your different versions of it down in there, obviously for Korea or obviously with World War II. So again, very, very nice. That's good. we have got, as I said before, a couple of little bits of photo etch, which these are teeny tiny little bits just down in here, as you can see. So we've just got some basic lap belts down in there, just like that. All right, so we'll keep that nice and safe. And then down in here, we've actually got the decals themselves. So again, a little bit careful with these. They look very flat, if I'm honest. You probably see that on here when you catch it in the light. They're very flat, but you're going to be going over a flat vehicle, so generally okay. It's just obviously you can see on the decal here, a big old carrier films into this one, so you want to make sure they're buried nice and deep down in there and everything else. But in general, other bits of information down in here and the markings on just like that. Whilst we're in the close-up, we'll have a quick look at the clear parts. So we've got a zip bag down in here with your clear parts on sprue L. And again, as you might imagine, because they're flat, absolutely fine, but we're just checking to making sure, and it has got one little bit, which I don't know if you'll even be able to see, but we've got a little bit of wisping. There we go, catch it in the light just there. So this is where the mold obviously is injected in, and you get a nice, just a cooling front edge. Think of it like a weather system coming in, and when it touches the other side, you get a cooling one. And there's just a very faint one, which is actually really unfortunate. In fact, it's got another one just here as well. Actually, try and catch it on camera. Very difficult. There we go. You can catch it in the light there. So you can catch it in both of them just there. And again, at this scale, you know, it's just a shame it's there. It's one of those things, we angle it any other direction, you won't see it. It's not massive, but it is there. And unfortunately, you can't do much about it. You can't polish it out or anything else like that. So, starting down here on the chassis and getting the bag. There we go. So, I've actually got big old sprue, as you can see, but the chassis looks absolutely fantastic. I always judge, as you know, I run my finger over the parts and see how sharp they are. They're quite sharp, you know, they're nice and crisp. And to be honest, this is. So the bolts and all the detail, they've got nice edges to them. They're quite sharp. They're quite crisply molded all the way through. So that's really nice. Gives you a good idea of the size of this thing with the actual floor pan there. So if we just move around in here, as you can see, we've got the dash. You've got your main chassis running down through there. As you can see, really nice. That floor looking pretty good. Got the tailgate over here as well. Very nice. And again, on the blind side, got a couple of ejector pins down in here. Just one down there, one up there, things like that. But generally, I don't think you're going to notice it. The chassis itself's got quite a few running down in the middle of all of this. But again, they're going to be inward facing, so it shouldn't be a problem. Down in here, though, I think you will see some of these because this is the back of the dash, so you might see it from the like a firewall from the other side. We have got some ejector pins down in here, which is a little bit of a shame. Would have been nice to not have those in. Okay, so screws everywhere. So down in here, again, some more of the bigger parts. The trouble is you get the bigger the parts, the more of the actual problems you're going to have with getting big parts out of molds and things like that. But generally you can see it's very nice. Got a nice texture to it right the way over. So that's very nice indeed. All right, if we just come around to here. So we've got the seats. Again, we've got the bonnet. Got that famous front grille, which is really nice. And then obviously we've got the sides. Obviously have your stowage, got your windscreen area around in here, which all looks very nice. Just flipping it over. Again, I'm not sure how much of this you'll see, but again, we have got ejector pins pretty much going to be in plain view. And if you are going to have the bonnet up again, you know, you've actually got ejector pins all the way underneath here. So a little bit of a shame with that. Seats are okay. We don't have any on the back of those or anything else. So that's pretty darn good. Generally though, very nice. Okay, so now we just run through all the smaller bits on here. Okay, so down in here, this is the actual engine one on sprue H. Some really nice details down in here. All right, so as you can see at the top, all the small parts really nicely recreated. Got everything down in there. I've got the front end, you've got the sump. The main details again, you've got some really fine wording just down in here. for the actual engine block as well, with the actual serial numbers and everything. And weirdly, it actually does say Jeep. So it can't say Jeep anywhere, but it says Jeep, and it is spelled correctly, even with my dodgy eyes. It actually does say Jeep on the engine block. I don't know if it says it on here as well, down the sides, but again, it's got some nice writing, you know, welded in or embossed into it. So that's actually very nice indeed. And again, on the blind side, pretty much everything's going to be hidden, so I won't worry about it. But all the screw gates really nice and fine. There's no sign of any flash or nasties or sink marks or anything else like that just in there. So again, very nice. And up here, we've got, again, we've got a lot of the drive and the running gear underneath and things like that. So we've got the exhaust, the various parts. So as you can see, very nicely done on all of those. Got your radiator, got a nice grill onto that one as well. That's very nice. And on the blind side, again, you're not really worried about this, but again, all the drive shafts look very nice, clean, things like that. So yeah, very good. Okay, just down in here, we've got the main sort of fuel tank area and things like that. So as you can see, sprue F, looking very nice indeed. And again, you've got some nice little touches with the fabric. You can see nice little recesses and things down in there. That's actually quite a nice touch. This is your wire cutter. So obviously wire comes up, gets caught in the tooth and cuts it, instead of obviously the inevitable. Starter handle. So down in here we've got a jerry can with a strap molded in, spare wheel hub I do believe, fuel tank, things like that. And then we've got the backs of the seats. But this cushioning is actually really nice. You can probably see the way it's been done. It's got a real authentic look to it. And I think with a nice little bit of dry brushing in there, some oils maybe, I think you actually turn out some very, very realistic effect. So very nice indeed. On the blind side, as I say, it's nothing to worry about. I haven't thought, so that's all going to be covered. Okay, so we've got some of the stowage items. So we've got spades down here, we've got axes, we've got other bits and pieces on sprue E, and obviously we've got some for the rag top pullovers as well. Some of the smaller items, and again the spade, the axe, the things like that, very nice indeed. Generally very good. All this framing stuff looks good, clean, very nice indeed. Okay, we've got a little screw down in here for some of the little parts. Over there, so there we go, sprue D, little dinky sprue, as you can see. Very nice indeed. So we've got things like the tow hook, all the various areas down in here, fire extinguisher, things like that. And again, no flash, no sink marks anywhere on this one. Genuinely looking very neat and tidy. Okay, twin pair in here, because obviously we've got the tyres and wheel hubs, things like that. So as you can see, sprue C with the tyres. The tyres are a little bit 2D, shall we say. Unfortunately, you can probably see them on here. There's not a lot of life going on with those. And obviously you'd want a little bit of weight on wheels and some wear and tear. You know, we're assuming there would have been writing on the outsides of the walls of the tyres, things like that. That's all completely devoid. But down in here, as you can see, we've got the hubs, which are actually very nicely done with the bolting detail, the various things, headlights. One of the bumpers down in here. Various other parts, as you can see, all looking nice. Some of the springs and shocks. So yeah, very nice indeed. Okay, one of the big areas is going to be that 50 hanging off the back, because I think with the driver, that's what you're going to be looking at. So again, here we are on sprue J with that big old 50. And again, the only thing is, I just would have liked to see a little bit more detail on this one. Maybe the cooling jacket being a separate entity and could have slid over, just give a little bit more 3D to it. But generally the rest of it's pretty nice down in here. We've got the ammunition cans, spares, things like that. Jerry can obviously up in here, the mounting brackets. To be honest, you can see down in here there is some nice details, but for what will be the standout part, I just would have thought maybe Slightly better breakdown and use of passage on that one. Last up, we've got the figure. So again, nice to see you actually get a figure with this one. So you've got a driver. He is multi, so he's a little bit over. Here we are on sprue K. So you've got his hands here, very nicely sculpted. Very nice. Soles of his shoes. And obviously we've got his chutes there, which actually look nice. It's actually got nice texture right the way through. Have a look at the head at the moment, but just generally the relief and everything, considering this is just plain old-fashioned styrene, there's a very faint seam line running down in some of these as well, which is quite a nice touch with it as well, for the actual seam lines for the stitching for the fabric has actually been thought about as well, so that's very nice. The face itself is definitely a little bit mono. He looks like a shop mannequin. There's not a lot of life in that photo, so obviously you guys can add your various weathering and your details into it. Also, clearly he is bold, so you've got his helmet though, so that's fine, which is completely open. But I don't think that's too bad at all on that one. And there you have it. Again, if you're into your bigger stuff, and obviously this is one of those things, it's very iconic. It's a Jeep. Forget what they call it. It's a Jeep. So you can actually have that situation as a nice one-off standoff piece of a classic vehicle, like it being a Jeep, you know, without the 50 on if you didn't want to or anything else like that. And you wouldn't have to have the wire cutter on the front. You could just have it normal. But if you did want it in sort of theatre type thing, obviously there's a lot more stowage items you could put onto it. Other figures, things like that, part of a small diorama or something else. But you could make a real feature out of it, or just stand alone on its own. It's a Jeep. Who doesn't love a Jeep at the end of the day? Anyway, that's Takom's 1/16 scale quarter-ton 4x4 G503MB utility vehicle. Or it's a Jeep.